Hamilton gets a block, has room inside the 10, inside, touchdown, Joe Hamilton. Touchdown, Georgia Tech.
I want it now, and I ain't never gonna back down.
Hello, and welcome to The Rise. I'm Roddy Jones, and on this episode, it's a real pleasure for me because we've got one of the greatest Yellow Jackets of all time. A former Yellow Jacket quarterback, Heisman Trophy finalist, legend, all-around good guys, now the radio analyst for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. But if you have been around Georgia Tech the last 20 years, you know the name, you know the guy who I'm talking about, Joe Hamilton. Joe, like I said, it's a pleasure for me, man. How are you?
I'm honored, Roddy. Good to see you, brother. And it's my new life now. It's my new profession, getting it to where you are right now, just doing a great job. And I'm proud to have a relationship with you, proud to be an alumnus like you are. And go Jackets, my brother.
You grew up in Alvin, South Carolina, a little bit north of Charleston, if I'm not mistaken, the Low Country.
Yes,
sir. Talk to me about how it was growing up.
Well, family atmosphere, small. A lot of people like to call it a town, Roddy, but it's more of a community. Yeah. 700 people max, or maybe give or take a little bit more, a little bit less. We always joke that you don't end up in Alvin, South Carolina. You have to go there. If you're lost in Alvin, South Carolina, somebody gave you some really, really bad direction. But we played sports, we watched sports, and we went out there and tried to emulate our favorite people, our favorite athletes. But around the community who we played with, your cousins, your friends, either it was a grade up, 2 grades down. We went out there and competed. Roddy, I didn't know I was going to be a quarterback until 7th grade tryouts. I was, wide receiver. I was a DB. But all of a sudden, Coach Green, the JV coach, told me and said, hey, he pointed and said, you're going to try out or you're going to be our quarterback along with 2 others. And I said, okay, coach. I was always taught to, whatever the coach said, you tried to do, and you would want to be a utility athlete outside of just being or having one position. So I fell in love with football at an early age. And as soon as I put that pad or those pads on and kind of got the first hit in Oklahoma drills and, I got up and everything was okay, it was just a great feeling.
Yeah, no kidding. That was back in the day where they let quarterbacks do Oklahoma drills. They don't let you touch quarterbacks anymore. So,
and that's right. Roddy, that was before I knew I was the quarterback. So he was just trying to find things out, see how tough everybody is or was, and he was trying to just feel guys out. But when I earned the job a little bit later, my senior year, I kind of stayed away from the Oklahoma drill.
Yeah, okay. There we go. There's the quarterback treatment that we're all used to. Well, Joe, after an incredible career at Macedonia High School, recruiting comes up. You had your eye on Florida State. I know there was a relationship, a pipeline of great South Carolina players going to Nebraska. They were a part of your recruitment. I'm sure South Carolina and Clemson were in there as well. So how do you end up coming out of South Carolina, avoiding all of those, and ending up at Georgia Tech?
Well, first of all, I would tell you, Roddy, that I never got tired of seeing those letters. I never got tired of answering phone calls. Yeah. I never told my mom or my dad to tell them I'm not here because I enjoyed it. That was something that I looked up to and was kind of in awe. A guy from, low country of South Carolina, AA Macedonia, was getting recruited like this, and guys wanted me to play for a game play a game or give me a scholarship from a game I grew up playing just in the backyard for fun. Wow. So the recruitment was awesome. When you're talking about me with having Tom Osborne and Joe Paterno sitting down in my living room, you can imagine a guy that loves football the way I love football and know about the history and know about those guys winning national championship and being the legends that they are. But Nebraska, to make a long story short, was a little bit too long, a little bit too far away. And then you're talking about the Clemson Tigers. The Clemson Tigers, Roddy, hurt my feelings. They really did. They hurt my feelings, and you're talking about a hometown guy, and they had recruited me. I had been to a few games on unofficial visits, and I just couldn't do it. Don't you know, Roddy, they did not even take athlete off the board when I came to visit? It's one thing about looking at the newspaper or looking at the magazines and seeing athlete, but at least try to trick me when I get on campus to say that we're going to put quarterback up there as long as he's here, and we're going to take it down a little bit later. And boy, did I hold a grudge. I held a grudge for a long time against Clemson. Eventually, we went 3-1 when I was at Georgia Tech, and that was gratifying. I've always played really, really well against him because of just in my mind, I had to just get revenge. on the Clemson Tigers. I forgave him now. I'm back rooting for teams in South Carolina.
How long did that take, Joe? How long did it take for
you?
To
That was 95, 20 years. The rest is history. And then right quick, South Carolina and the Gamecocks. I thought that was going to come down to that battle, South Carolina and Clemson. And that was going to be hard to choose because you have family members loving the Gamecocks, family members loving the Tigers.
Well, your loss was Georgia Tech's gain. And
Yes.
it was probably smart for you with the family dynamic to go ahead and get out of that rivalry.
But not all is lost in that, too, because I don't want to dismiss the recruiting job that Danny Smith did. I think he's the special teams coordinator now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Coach George O'Leary. Yeah. Because I can remember it like yesterday, Coach George O'Leary never once told the untruth to me. He sat in the living room and said that you're a quarterback, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to compete. And boy, my 5 years at Georgia Tech, did he give me an opportunity to compete. And there was never once I thought that Coach George O'Leary was unfair. There can only be one quarterback that's going to play. I mean, I wasn't going to play special teams.
But that day in Raleigh, talk to me.
Well, I thought you would never ask, Roddy.
So let's go to the high school career. The college career. You mentioned 5 years at Georgia Tech. That first year you redshirted. I redshirted as well. It was not fun for me. How was your redshirting experience?
Well, it was fun because I realized, and I did my research before, and unlike you, Roddy, there can only be one quarterback. That's going to play. I mean, I wasn't going to play special teams. I wasn't going to move positions. So I needed that red shirt because of the speed of the game. It was a little fast for me. I certainly trust Coach O'Leary, and soon after Donnie Davis left, that some of my freshman year, it was a battle. It was a competition, and that competition led to Brandon Shaw and I competing for the starting job in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Let's go to Raleigh, North Carolina. I mean, you said that you guys are competing for the job. Take me through how that competition ended up. I think we all know how the history was, but that day in Raleigh, talk to me.
Well, I thought you would never ask, Roddy. Again, I want to give a lot of kudos to Coach George O'Leary because when you're talking about a true quarterback competition, one day in camp, and Brandon Shaw would take all first-team reps, and I would take second-team reps. The next day in camp, I would take all the first-team reps. He would take the second-team reps. And we were told that in the meeting rooms. We were told that by a head coach. We were told that, in the team meeting room, they knew it was a big-time competition. So it wasn't anything hidden. It was all up in front. And we had a very healthy quarterback room. And, Roddy, we did not know about who was going to start in Raleigh, North Carolina until Thursday of game week. Now, I'm not sure when the coaches knew, but we really didn't know. He had some great days. I had some great days. I had some not-so-good days. He had some not-so-good days, so we really didn't know. And when Coach O'Leary called us in his office and told us about who won that job, he specifically said, Joe, we're going to go with you, and he told us the reason why. He said, Joe, you had bad plays, but you did not have bad days. Mm-hmm. He said, Brandon, you had bad days that leaked on into you had bad plays that leaked on to you having bad days. I think the coaching staff really liked the fact that I can forget about mistakes, that I can compartmentalize things past just one play, go 2 plays. I can try to just realize that we're still in the ball game. It's not over, whether it be practice or that period, whether it's blitz pickup or whether it's goal line, 2-minute. I can kind of forget what happened before and just live in the moment is why I won that job. And, boy, I was happy. First call was to my mom. Next call, I told Mom, don't call Dad. Let me call Dad and break the news to him. And obviously up in Raleigh, North Carolina, I can remember vividly.
With a new quarterback for themselves, Joe Hamilton comes in as a freshman this year. He's more of an option-type quarterback, one of the highly recruited quarterbacks coming in this year. You can see what he did in high school. A lot of yards there and a lot of running. I'd say this guy's a pretty good player, and they're expecting big things from him at Georgia Tech. On
a fake draw pass and a fake draw swing screen to the left to C.J. Williams. It was my first touchdown pass. Was 1-0 as a starter on the road. And I'm telling you, there's no better feeling just to win that job, have your teammates behind you, have the Georgia Tech fans behind you. And it was just something that a dream came true, and you didn't cut it any corners. and it wasn't given to you. It wasn't one of those promises that you're a highly touted recruit and you're going to come in here and we're going to put you first team right away. I just love the fact that I felt that it was earned.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And then you continued to prove that you'd earned it throughout your career. But that first year in '96, you threw for over 1,300 yards. You ran for a ton. But the team struggled. So what did you learn during that first season while you were at Georgia Tech?
Everything, Roddy, everything. A humbling experience, very humbling, because what had happened to me that year is I came from high school when I was the man. I came from the high school thinking, I can do it all and I'm willing to do it all. And I didn't transform to the college player that I needed to be, the college quarterback that I needed to be until after that year. And it's just a learning experience. And that's what I tell, critics and analysts now about expecting quarterbacks to get on campus as true freshmen and hit the ground running like Trevor Lawrence and some of these guys that you see do it. It just doesn't happen that way for a lot of people.
No, it certainly doesn't, especially if you don't have the support system around, or even if you do. And I say it about head coaches too. First-year head coaches, they need to get some time too. But after that first year, your second year, you get a new offensive coordinator, a legendary offensive coordinator in Ralph Friedgen. How did that change things for you? How much did the offense change? How much did the coaching style and the coaching change of the offensive coordinator position help you?
Well, that meant a lot to me because Coach Friedgen, he quickly realized it was already his style, but he realized my style was kind of like visual. Coach Friedgen meant a lot to me, a whole lot, and at that point he realized that I have something here.
Goes long, Powell's there, got him, touchdown. Hamilton with time and a man open in the end zone. That's Myers. For Joe Hamilton, goes to the corner, timing pattern to Campbell. Did he make the catch? Touchdown, Georgia Tech. Down the sideline he goes. Hamilton gets a block, has room inside the 10, inside, touchdown, Joe Hamilton.
I could almost, tailor my offense to around this skill set of this young man and able to throw the ball, run the ball, and also implement some, different formations that he can handle, different protections that he can handle. And we evolved from that sophomore year to the senior year, man. We added so many different things, and we communicated like, real football geniuses. He was the genius, and I was the guy that wanted to eat up all the knowledge that he was spewing out. You talking about Chad Pennington, Drew Brees. Those Nerf balls that you throw through the hoop? Drew Brees hit 230 in a row. So back then, even then, I kind of saw the accuracy.
Your career obviously was fantastic, but when you're at Georgia Tech, you're defined by one game more than any other, and that's the game against Georgia, the rivalry that you have with Georgia. And, Joe, obviously there was a streak there when you got there that you ended up breaking. Talk to me about how that felt, being the quarterback to break the streak. I believe it was 7 straight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
How was that?
Oh, man, Roddy. Chill bumps. I wish you could see my arms right now, but the hair of my arms are standing up. Chill bumps, Roddy. Now, I would first let you know, and everybody's going to watch this, I wanted you to let them know I want to let them know, I got pushed into this rival.
Yeah.
Again, I'm from South Carolina. I knew that Georgia Tech and Georgia played at the end of the season just because I know the history of football, but I didn't know the ups and downs of the rivalry. I wasn't in tune to how big it is or how big it was until my freshman year. And I got to Georgia Tech when they were still playing on Thursday. My first game in 1995, they played on Thursday, and I was able to go home after Thursday morning at 11 o'clock when the game started. I was able to go home for Thanksgiving to finish off Thanksgiving weekend after that game. And I realized the fans in the stands. I realized that for a whole year you get a chance to brag in state. Some of my roommates, some of my teammates that were from Georgia, they cried afterwards, especially the seniors. And I'm like, this is a big deal. And then all of a sudden, Coach O'Leary told all the media members, everybody as far as, associated with the team, as far as staff, equipment people, the players, I don't want to see you ever in red. Don't you wear red. And if he saw you wearing red and you come into the cafeteria, he would ask you to kindly take that off. Yeah. He understood the magnification of it as well. And I just thought in '97 we had an opportunity to beat those guys to end the streak there. They took a last-minute drive to, score at the end of the game. And then, oh boy, in 1998, Quincy Carter, Joe Hamilton, Charlie Rogers, Champ Bailey, Richard Seymour, Marcus Stroud. I mean, it was just electric. And I wouldn't have any better way to end up that game, in a close game, Brad Chambers' field goal, than to end that streak on a field goal kick. Yeah. Not a blowout. See, fans always want a game to be in the balance at the end where they don't have to sweat or, they don't have to be nervous. But we as players, we want the big-time game to where guys make plays late. You have to really concentrate. Everybody's in tune. Who's going to make a play last? And that's what happened in 1998, and it was so gratifying. The bus ride back home was just like something I'd never seen before. And that Governor's Trophy, that means something. I have a replica of that at home. Matter of fact, I have 2 of them.
You go to New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I mean, you're sitting there in the stuffy room with that trophy in front of you. Take me there, Joe. What were you feeling? A kid from Alvin, South Carolina, sitting in the Big Apple with the greatest trophy in sports, the greatest individual award in sports right in front of you. What was that like?
It was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can remember conversations, not just one, conversations that my dad and I had about, where are we? How did we get here? How did we get up here? We never talked about this. We never really talked about, being the very, very best quarterback in the nation. We talked about looking yourself in the mirror and emptying the tank. We talked about giving it all for your teammates and making sure you don't have anything left at the end of the game. And here we are as a Davey O'Brien Award winner in New York for the Heisman Trophy. And you're talking about that year, I think. You're talking about Chad Pennington, Drew Brees, Michael Vick, and then Ron Dane. I tell you a quick story, a competitive story about Drew Brees, Chad Pennington, Mike Vick, and myself. Those Nerf balls that you throw through the hoop, as far as give you points when you throw it through. I would say 2.5 hours the 4 quarterbacks spent competing, throwing that ball from, probably 10 yards away, maybe 15 yards away through that hoop. And when I tell you, and Mike Vick and I talked about this during training camp down in Flowery Branch, when I tell you Drew Brees must have hit 230 in a row, 230 in a row. Well, I think our max was like 75, maybe 100 that any of us got in a row. Drew Brees hit 230 in a row. So back then, even then, I kind of saw the accuracy that Drew Brees possessed. But man, it was something. It was something to behold, to be mentioned in the Heisman Trophy run. My whole demeanor, my whole thought process that entire year. If you wanted an autograph from Joe Hamilton, and any of my teammates were around me, you're gonna sign a few autographs. You're not just going to see us walk into class or see us around and want to autograph and single me out, and then especially if they were my offensive lineman. Hey, I want you to get Britt Key's autograph. I want you to get Craig Page's autograph. I want you to get Chris Brown's autograph, and then you can get mine as well, but include those guys. So I think more so than my ride, and it was gratifying. I'm not taking anything away from it, but when you hear that we got in or we did some good things from your teammates, that's an even better feeling that know that you kind of led the right way.
Well, it's awesome that you did that. I would like to correct the record. You absolutely got robbed that year. I love Ron Dane, too. Never met him. Seems like a nice guy. You should have won the Heisman Trophy that year. That's my piece that I'll say about that. But,
well, a lot to be said about that, just for internally, Roddy, and not to sell it, putting anybody under the bus. I cannot lose to Wake Forest on the road and win the Heisman Trophy.
Well, okay.
So that's something I hold to myself, a little competitor in me. So there you go. I don't think that's brought up too much now because guys have erased that stereotypical, he's too short. He doesn't have the arm strength, the measurements. That's for the chalkboard. I would say turn on the film.
I want to ask your perspective on something, because you've mentioned your height a couple of times. We look in the NFL now, and Kyler Murray is a guy that's in the NFL who is shorter in stature. Russell Wilson is a guy who's in the NFL shorter in stature, and a lot of the path for that was paved by a guy that you mentioned, you sat next to at the Heisman Trophy ceremony, Drew Brees. If your career happened 20 years later, how do you think that would have changed the trajectory for you in terms of NFL?
I would have gotten more of a shot. The draft, where I was going to go, where would I end up being drafted? I don't know about that, but I would have gotten more of a shot to get in there and see what I can do. I would have gotten more than 2 reps at the end of a period, and those 2 reps being, a handoff where you got to grade me on how I carry out my fake. I would get a more chance to compete in preseason games to see if I can't play. Okay, and that just did not happen. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, everybody has to find passing lanes, yep. Roddy. You see 6'5", 6'4", 6'3" quarterbacks getting balls batted down every single day. Now you're seeing young guys or speed guys or athletic guys or mobile guys. I like to call them mobile because I don't want to, put a label on anybody. Mobile guys running RPOs. If it wasn't for mobile guys and guys that can move, there is no RPO. There is no bootlegs and waggles to where you can get outside the pocket and steal a first down. I don't think that's brought up too much now because guys have erased that stereotypical, he's too short. He doesn't have the arm strength, the measurements. That's for the chalkboard. I would say turn on the film.
You end up on radio in Atlanta every single morning. There's a generation of young people and older people who grow up with listening to Joe Hamilton on the radio here in Atlanta. Now you're the Georgia Tech radio analyst, and there's going to be a generation of Georgia Tech fans who digest the games from your perspective because of that. When I tell you all that, man, what comes to mind?
It's just one of those situations where you just got to be grateful and thankful and find a way to give back, because it's my name. It's really about me, but it's not about me. And that's why I pray to the good Lord all the time. Why me? What do you want me to do with this? And that's why I'm on the radio. That's why I'm coaching kids in middle school. That's why I can, anytime somebody asks me to help out or speak to the Boys and Girls Club, I'm at their service because I think that's my calling to. He blessed me to make sure I share my story.
Well, and share it you have, Joe. Really appreciate your time, man. This was an absolute pleasure, and I hope you and your family stay well. I'll see you soon, brother.
Thanks a lot, Roddy.
You got it, man.
Thanks a lot, brother.
That'll do it for this edition of The Rise. Be sure to check out our other episodes and memorable games. For Joe Hamilton, this is Roddy Jones. Thanks for watching.